The difference between dark and light roasted coffee explained by a coffee roaster. So I'm going to start with the fundamentals. One is the caffeine content. The darker you go, the less caffeine content is in the bean. The lighter you go, the more caffeine content is in the bean. And the reason why that is because the caffeine is inside the water content of the bean. So when we're roasting, if we're roasting it dark, we're burning off the water content in the bean, thus burning off a lot of the caffeine that's contained within it. Now you want to be careful with how light you go, because if you go too light, you run the risk of underdeveloping the bean. And when you underdevelop the bean, you get a very weird wheatgrass type taste. It just is not very good. When you go too dark, you lose all the natural flavors of the bean. Now, there's a lot of natural sugars and a lot of natural flavors in coffee beans, but if you go too dark, you don't taste any of them. All you taste is carbon. The other difference is the taste. So obviously the darker you go, the stronger taste you're going to get out of it, more bitter, but the lighter you go, the more natural flavors you're going to get out of the bean. Some of the natural flavors that I really like out of a naturally processed Yirgacheffe bean, for example, you're going to get a lot of blueberries and chocolates out of it. Naturally processed Kenyan, you're going to get a lot of orange and citrus notes. I really like Tanzania coffee. That's a lot of walnut and oranges in it. There's a bunch of different ways that the farmers will process the beans, and that has a big effect on the way that the taste comes out. So there's washed processed, there's honey processed, and there's natural processed. I personally love a naturally processed bean. If you've never had one, I highly recommend trying it at least once. You really taste the soil and the region in which it comes from. I personally pride myself on being able to taste any one of my coffees blindfolded and tell you exactly what part of the world that coffee comes from. That's how different and that's how distinct coffee can be when it's processed and when it's roasted in the proper way. Now, there's a bunch of reasons why you might roast a coffee darker or lighter. One of the main reasons why mass-produced coffee will often go darker is because they're using a lesser quality bean and they're trying to mask the imperfections of that coffee. Because if you go darker, all you're going to taste is the carbon and that bitterness, so they don't even notice it. But when you go lighter, you're going to have so much more flavor. You're going to feel like you're getting some caffeine out of it. One of the reasons why a small batch roaster might go lighter or darker is because we are trying to create a dynamic flavor profile for each one of our beans. So, for example, if I go darker on a Yirgacheffe bean, you're going to get a lot of really floral tones out of it. Tastes like you're eating a flower almost. And if I go lighter, you get light chocolates and blueberries out of it. And it's just different. It's just depending on what you're going for. So if I was going for more floral, I would go darker. If I was going for more chocolates and blueberries out of our natural Yirgacheffe, I would go lighter. Now, another reason we might go lighter versus darker is we're trying to profile the bean for the brew style and the brew method that you're using. So, for example, in an espresso, we will never go dark roast on an espresso. And the reason why is because you are concentrating coffee into an espresso shot, and there's no reason to concentrate bitterness into an already concentrated espresso shot. There's no reason to do that. It's just going to taste very harsh and very bitter, and it's not going to be easy to drink. So lighter roast on espresso, all lighter you go in espresso, the more full-bodied flavor you're going to get. You're going to get a thicker crema. It's just going to taste great. You're going to be able to drink a light roast espresso shot black. You don't need to even add anything to it because it's going to extract so much flavor out of that bean. I like all types of roast styles. I like, darker roast to lighter roast. It just depends on what mood I'm in and how I'm going to brew it. But for fundamentally speaking, do not put a dark roasted coffee in your espresso, it's just going to be bitter, and it's not going to be, there's so much more to coffee than just bitterness. For traditional drip brewing or like a pour over, an AeroPress, or any other method, you can use anything from a light to a dark roast, and that just depends on what you're looking for. Sometimes I'm looking for something a little bit more tart in my morning coffee, so I'll go with a little bit darker of a roast. I really love a Vienna roast on a Mexico Chiapas. You get a lot of dark chocolates and tart and like a cool sweet finish. I really like it. But then sometimes I also really like a light roasted Yirgacheffe in my coffee because I love the blueberries and chocolate. I like a light roasted Yirgacheffe on occasion. It's like a dessert coffee for me. So if I'm going with something that I can drink every single day, I like something on the medium range, right? In between a lighter and a dark roast. A medium roast is one method that I would recommend for like an everyday type coffee. It's not too much flavor, and it's not too bitter. It's just kind of right in the middle. It's something that I would recommend for basically any cafe or restaurant. Also like a darker roasted brew when I'm having something that's a little bit sweet, because it gives some contrast between the sweet and the tart, and it really pairs well together. So just depends on what you're looking for in your coffee, whether or not you want to do a light to a dark roast in your regular drip brew. When you're doing espresso, nothing more than a medium roast. I would never go darker than that. In fact, I would probably stick to lighter roast coffee. You're going to get a much better tasting espresso shot out of it, I guarantee you. So thank you for tuning in. My name is Nicolas from Foxen Coffee. If you want to learn more about what we're doing here in our small business, Foxen Coffee, just sign up to our newsletter. I posted a newsletter about this very subject recently. Check it out on our website. It's foxencoffee.co, Foxen coffee.co. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.